So I scrolled past something that a white transgender woman said, and honestly, I don't think that this really has anything to do with the fact that this individual is transgender. I think it's really the whiteness or even the non-blackness in general, because non-black people period do this, right? So first of all, before we even get into the video, let's discuss the terminology so that we are all on the same page, right? So a transgender woman is somebody who is born a man and identifies as a woman, okay? Now, that is important because, well, we about to have a conversation about this, so we need to all actually know what is going on, because a lot of people don't know transgender man versus transgender woman, what the person was born as versus identifying as. So let's make sure we are on the same page, right? Now, this white transgender woman, like I said, okay, posted a picture on Twitter, okay? Now, this is a very popular image. I don't know the black woman's name in this image, right? But she was one of the first black girl. This is not a woman. This was a teenager, right? But she was one of the first black girls to integrate schools during the Jim Crow era, right? So this white trans woman posts a picture of this black girl with a crowd of white people behind her looking just violent, right? And this white trans woman said, when I see so many TERFs in the comments proudly saying they want to discriminate and segregate trans people, I can't help but be reminded of this picture, right? And I'm confused because who are you in the picture? Because I don't think you who you think you is. So let's go ahead and read one of the replies. Somebody who is clearly, I'm going to assume also white or at least non-black, because like I said, non-black people do this as well, right? Because I really doubt that a black person encouraged this, right? This individual said, they really dislike it when you dare to make the parallel and call out trans rights as a civil rights issue, which it totally is. I think it hits too close to home on multiple fronts. Brace for the incoming nastiness. As Mrs. Johnson is quoted as saying, pay it no mind. Then the white trans woman replied and said, this is the person who initially made the comparison, right? This person said, I love pointing out the parallels and upsetting them. It means that at least some of them are going to have a gut check moment and realize what they are doing is wrong. At minimum, to the neutral bystander who comes across these posts, they make themselves look unhinged. And then I did not hit show more on the tweet, so I cannot finish it. And quite frankly, I think that is enough. I don't think the end of that tweet added much because I didn't bother to click show more. So let's get into this, right? Let me share my issue with this, okay? My issue with this is that I never see white people denounce white supremacy, ever. I never see them acknowledge the terror that they put us through, present tense, right? Not even just past tense, right? Anytime I see them mentioning Jim Crow or anything like that, it is not to talk about this system of white supremacy and how it still exists today and how they're still upholding it or anything like that. No, it's to somehow make some comparison to paint themselves as the victim in the situation. You just took a picture of a black girl who is integrating the school with a bunch of white people in the background looking like they're about to attack her. And somehow you painted yourself as the victim in that situation. Like, hey, you want to know something? This is not even specific to non-black people. Honestly, some black immigrants do it too, right? Y'all have a tendency to bring up the tortures that black Americans have endured, not to denounce it, not to say, hey, those folks deserve reparations, not to say, look at what you put them through, right? No, never that. But instead to somehow paint yourself as the motherfucking victim. That's where I be confused at, because again, I never see you all bringing up Jim Crow or slavery or anything like that to say, hey, yeah, black Americans are owed their due justice. You know what I'm saying? What happened to their 40 acres of the mule? No, I never see any of y'all bring any of black Americans' trauma up for that reason. No, whenever you all bring it up, it's to somehow paint yourself as the victim in a situation. Now, this is my thing. Of course, I am not the only oppressed person in the world. That is not what I'm saying. Of course, you know, someone can be oppressed on the basis of their gender identity or their sexuality or their immigration status or whatever, right? But, hold up now, right? Tell me why we never, ever, ever have Black Americans who have intersecting identities making these comparisons. Can somebody tell me why that is? You will never, ever, 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 ever see a Black American transgender person post no picture of no Black Americans integrating schools with a group of white people trying to lynch them in the background and be talking about, yeah, this is how I feel on the basis of my gender identity. You never see Black Americans make that comparison, right? But you constantly see non-Black people, especially, but like I said, not even just non-Black people, because Black immigrants be doing this sometimes too, right? You constantly see them bringing up Black Americans' trauma to try to paint it as some funky ass parallel to their own. Let me tell you something. Let's make one thing clear, okay? I don't know who you is. I don't know where you came from. I don't care what you identify as. Whatever you're going through, it does in no way compare to what Black Americans went through and continue to go through in this country. Let me make that clear to you right the fuck now. Now, I mentioned the fact that this individual is a white trans woman. And like I said, I think for the most part, this has to do with the whiteness, period. Because like I said 100 times now, it be white folks, non-Black folks, even sometimes non-Black Americans, right? But the fact that this individual is a white trans woman, I think that does add a little bit of icing to the cake. Because let's be so for real with ourselves, right? Now, my point in this conversation is not to, put anybody down or mock anybody's gender identity or say that they are not valid in what they identify as or anything like that. That is not my point. But y'all know one thing about me, baby, I live in reality. And if you want to be delusional, then this ain't the place to do that. You're going to have to go on to a different YouTube channel for that, right? No matter what you identify as, okay? The reality is you were born and raised up a certain way, right? And that is not unique to genders or anything like that. For example, I was born and raised a Christian, okay? And I think that the things that we are conditioned with when we are young and we are impressionable, we're little sponges just soaking it all up, right? I think that stuff stays with us for the rest of our lives, right? Now, you may do a lot of unpacking and introspection and all of that stuff, right? But again, when you're young and impressionable and you're just soaking up everything around you, stuff can reroute your brain, quite literally, right? So, like I said, my point here is not to, down anybody or say that they are not valid in their gender identity, but realistically, when you are raised as a white man, you are conditioned a certain way. So even if you grow up to identify as a transgender woman, somewhere in the back of your mind, there's still some white man tendencies, right? You looked at a picture of a little Black girl integrating a school, right? And you said, how can I be oppressed? Does that not sound exactly like cisgender white men? How they be talking like, yeah, white men are the most oppressed, so and so and so, yada, yada, yada. Like everyone can be proud of who they are, but us, blah, blah, blah. Does this not literally sound like a white dude? Like, what are we talking about here, right? Like, I'm sorry, but again, let's be so for real. I've mentioned this before in the context of, who was I talking about? I think I was talking about transgender people, actually. Yeah, but I was talking about just in general, transgender women in general, right? Because when you're born a boy and raised, you're conditioned certain ways, right? You're conditioned to talk over women. You're conditioned to think you smarter than us and this and that and so and so and so, right? So when those boys grow up and they identify as transgender women, a lot of that conditioning is still in the back of their minds. And that's why you notice sometimes, there are some transgender women who don't even like women, which is crazy because it's like, huh, right? But it makes sense, though, because you were born and raised and socialized as a boy. So, of course, you hate women just like any other dude, right? But now you identify as a woman. So we see this this confounding sort of contradictory sort of thing, right? Now, again, for the 10th time, I'm not being transphobe. Oh, Lord, Jesus Christ. Y'all finna come hooting and hollering. Kiss my ass, bitch. Because like I said, look, me personally, I don't give a damn what you identify as. What you eat do not make me shit one bit. I will tell you that right now. Identify as what you want to identify. Be called what you want to be called. I really don't care, right? But I'm not gonna sit here and pretend that the years of social conditioning and brainwashing that you were put through just magically disappeared the day that you grow up and say, well, actually, I identify as ABC or XYZ, because that's just not true. Let me tell y'all another example, right? Because a lot of transgender stuff has been popping up on my Twitter recently, and I have not been interacting with it for the most part. I don't know why it has been inundating my Twitter like this, but somebody else posted, they were like, is anybody else's feed just like completely just whoosh full of transgender stuff? And I was like, yeah, like what is up with that, right? But anyway, this stuff has been on my feed for like the last week. I'm not even joking, right? And I've been watching white trans people go back and forth with white cis people, right? And the white cis women will literally say to the white trans women, this is woman face. This is like black face. You're dressing up like a woman and mocking us with your idea of womanhood, so and so and so. And my thing is this, like, hold up. Because, I mean, like, I see the comparison you're trying to make there, Becky, but you won't even denounce blackface. You won't denounce literal blackface. But you're sitting here drawing comparisons to blackface when you want to make a point against trans women. Like, hey, that's my thing. Y'all won't denounce the shit that y'all clearly think is terrible, right? Because you use it as the baseline for every fucking comparison of oppression that you can come up with, right? Y'all won't even denounce it when it's about black folks, but you'll take it and use that comparison to some other shit that's not about us, doesn't pertain to us, right? And you'll say, yeah, this is like even worse than that. Like, honestly, the blacks had it all right. Matter of fact, y'all, let me give y'all another example. And I think she used this exact same picture, if I'm not mistaken, but maybe not. Okay, so years ago, the content creator I Am Eloho made a goofy ass video about African Takeover Day, I believe at Howard University, okay? And I made a response. I'll put the link to it up there because I think I still have that video up, right? And she was upset because Black Americans were not impressed with this African Takeover Day, okay? Now, this is my thing. First of all, if you go up in anybody's shit talking about you taking over, that's disrespectful, right? If you had went to whoever's school talking about African Takeover Day, that's just disrespectful. Take your ass to your school and do that shit, right? But then on top of that, right? They did this during Black History Month. So during the time where we're focusing on Black Americans and what we went through in this country and our history, you talking about, yeah, we taking over. Let's focus on us. Like, what? Now, this is my thing. Y'all sit here and act like shit like that makes sense. But if we turned around and did the same shit to y'all, let's say I moved to Nigeria, right? And I know Eloho's not Igbo. She's some shit, your hobo or some shit. I don't know, right? Bum bitch. That's what I was called, your hobo, I guess. But anyway, I'm sorry, but I'm thinking about this shit, and that shit just irritated me again, right? Because the dumbass comparison she made was really fucking disrespectful, right? But if I moved to Nigeria, right? And again, like I said, I know she's not Igbo, but I'm just making a point, right? And say they had a month commemorating like the Biafran War. Is that how it's pronounced? Biafran or Biafran? I don't know. I think it's Biafran because Biafran don't sound right, but I don't know. Shit. Okay. So for those of y'all who don't know, the Igbos wanted to be their own country, right? So they had a whole war, the Biafran War, right? Where the Igbos were like, no, we on our own, right? And the rest of Nigeria was like, fuck no, you're not, right? So the rest of Nigeria starved the Igbos out. They literally did, right? And that's why the Igbos like the Irish so much. I think the Irish are the ones who came and gave the Igbos food. Like they flew over and dropped food out the planes for the Igbos, right? But my point is this. Let's say they had a month commemorating the history of the Biafran War, right? And let's say I moved over there and waited for this month to be like, hey, Black American Takeover Day. Is that not disrespectful as hell? That shit is just disrespectful. And I just be so confused. Like, I feel like people have so little social skills, so little emotional intelligence, like so little fucking anything. But anyway, right? So Eloho made this whole dumb ass video like, yeah, y'all are just saying that because y'all never went to college and so and we're all black and it's Black History Month and then she made the comparison, this Jim Crow comparison again. She posted a picture of, and I think it was this same picture, but I might be wrong, right? She posted a picture of a Black American person integrating some space and white people in the background waiting to lynch them. And she was like, yeah, this is how I feel right now. Bitch, are you serious? Are you fucking serious? In this year of 2025, you made the comparison of Black Americans asking you, hey, can you not be disrespectful and take away from what our month is about, right? You made the comparison of of Jim Crow? Like, what the hell? Are you fucking stupid? Like, and I'm so offended. Whether it's an African person making this dumbass comparison, a white person making this dumbass comparison, it is offensive. How can you downplay what my people went through to that degree? Are you fucking serious? Like with the white transgender woman, you on Twitter going back and forth with people talking about, yeah, I feel like this black girl who integrated white school. Like, are you serious with the case of the Africans? Yeah, I feel like, yeah, like African takeover there. I feel like the black girl who. Are you dumb? Are you dumb? Like, and maybe I'm so irritated, because there's all these studies about epigenetics, right? And I'm gonna make a long story short about epigenetics because I discuss this every other video. So if you've watched my videos for a while, you already know what I'm about to say, right? Basically, every person has a genome, okay? A genome is like a cookbook full of recipes that makes you, right? So one recipe might be for brown skin. One recipe might be for kinky hair, in my genome book, right? So a genetic change would be actually changing the recipe, right? So say I had a pizza recipe on page 3. A genetic change would be, instead of using 2 cups of flour, let's use 3 cups of flour, right? Something like that. We actually changed the recipe, right? An epigenetic change does not actually change the recipe. It just changes how the recipe is applied, right? So an epigenetic change will be, you know what? Let's make less pizza right now. And let's focus more on this salad recipe on page 12 because, we need some veggies or whatnot or whatever, right? So nothing about the recipes were changed, but we just instead chose to focus on certain recipes for whatever reason, right? That is what an epigenetic change is. And basically, so many studies have shown that you can pass epigenetic changes down to your descendants, right? Now, this is not something unique to transatlantic slavery. This has been seen in rape victims, people who experience famines, prisoners of wars, all types of stuff, right? But as it pertains to epigenetic changes, with transatlantic slavery, these studies have been done that show that Black Americans today have all of these upregulated stress responses and stuff because of what our ancestors went through, okay? And the first question I always ask is, how did Black Americans' ancestors pass all this stuff down to us, but white folks' ancestors ain't passing nothing down to them? So you telling me white folks were so terrible to my ancestors that they passed down all this sadness and these stress responses and stuff, but white folks ain't passed down none of that hatred or that rage or that aggression or that violence that they inflicted upon my people? Like, I don't even believe that, right? But my point is this, in bringing this up, right? Sometimes I feel like I have 400 years of tired weighing on me, right? And then when you think about the fact that your ancestors can pass down trauma, it makes sense. It is honestly so heartbreaking to me to think about what my ancestors went through, right? And then to have somebody just downplay it like a slap in the face. How fucking dare you, as a fucking white man who, identifies as a white woman, right? Still not fucking oppressed, right? How fucking dare you make the comparison to what my ancestors went through and act like you at all in any capacity could ever remotely go through anything they fucking go through. Like it don't even fucking matter if you are a white man, a white woman, a white cis person, a white trans person. You will never fucking ever go through what my ancestors went through. I fucking assure you of that. I promise you, right? How dare you, as an African, pretend that somebody asked you not to have an African takeover day at all in any way compares to Jim Crow? Just how fucking dare you? It literally feels like a slap in the fucking face. After my people went through so fucking much, it gets downplayed and reduced to this? Really? My confusion ultimately comes from the fact that, again, I never see you bitches posting pictures of Jim Crow when it's time to discuss reparations or anything like that. Oh, no, y'all be quiet as a church mouse then, right? I never see any of you bitches posting pictures of Jim Crow when it's time to discuss what Black Americans are owed or how much we went through or how that still affects our community to this day or how you all still, you still doing the exact same shit to Black Americans to this day. I never see y'all bringing up Jim Crow when it's time to talk about the new Jim Crow, about how nothing has really changed. No, I don't see y'all then. Oh, no, right? I only see y'all bringing up Jim Crow when it's time to downplay it and pretend that your goofy ass is in any way going through anything comparable. But let me assure you that you're not, bitch, right? And you want to know how you're not? Because if you was, you'd be able to compare your suffering to your own fucking suffering. You wouldn't have to bring up Black Americans or Jim Crow or anything else, right? You'll be able to just say, look at this, look at what I'm going through, look at what I went through then, whatever, right? But you don't have no fucking suffering to even compare it to, bitch. That's how you know you're a motherfucking joke.